Hi guys, Billy back, and this time we're going to be looking at the Gladiator Thor from Thor Ragnarok by Hot Toys. I've had this a few weeks to be honest, but I haven't had the time to do any videos. I've just been so busy, so I decided to take out an hour or so of my evening tonight, and I've decided to manage to just have enough free time to be able to just show you the figure. I'm not going to rip into it like in a full scale review. There's so many videos out there right now of this figure. I don't think that I can really give it anything other than my own sort of angle and my own view on the figure. Without ado, let's have a quick look. Now, I've got him displayed with the shield and the club at the moment with the helmet on, because it's you know, the best way of displaying him, really, in my opinion. You can take off the helmet and put the hair on there. But in all honesty, this is Gladiator Thor. This is a real different variation of the character, and I think it looks fantastic. Now, when the box came to me, I've seen other videos of the packaging, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of the Thor Ragnarok line of, you know, packaging. A lot of the time it's probably down to the graphic design of it all, the way they've laid everything out, especially the road-worn Thor box. I hate it. I think it looks really crap. Maybe it's a graphic design sort of sensibility that drives me nuts, but it's just, there's bits splattered all over the place, and it looked messy and slapdash. Now this is an improvement on that itself, the actual metallic print of the Thor written there with the photograph. I think it's a movie photograph or a promo. That's definitely not the figure anyway, but it's some sort of promo picture on the front there, maybe artistically painted. And then it's got some lightning flashes. There is some spot UV on there to try and break up the monotony of the actual background. So it works a little better, but in all honesty, I'm just not a big fan of the actual boxes themselves. Normal shoebox design, as you get with most Hot Toys nowadays. You also get the plastic insert, and then you've got the credits there standing behind him on a little cardboard insert inside the box. But that's it for the box, guys. I wish I could tell you more, but that's how it looks. Anyway, onto the figure. Now, this is a fantastic piece by Hot Toys. A lot of the Thors of the past have all had a semi-similar design. I said previously in a video that you could take most Hot Toys Thor figures, just pick any one of them, and you can have that as your representation of Thor in your collection, and it wouldn't be too much out of the design style of all the others. But this is the first time that Thor has come out, and he does look different. Mostly because of the short hair, but also because they've actually been able to inject a bit of colour, do a sort of like an asymmetrical kind of combat armour design to him, and just give him some sort of originality that none of the others were able to do. Now, there is a lot of colour in this figure as well, and partially saved by the teal armour pieces, because the teal armour pieces are what break down the blacks and the browns and the occasional red, and add another layer of colour into him. If I'm being honest, I would have liked them to up the colour a little bit more. Just a tiny bit more saturation on some of the teal would have brought it a little bit higher in my expectations, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really affect the figure, and it's still beautiful and it's very colourful. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly just go through what you get with this guy, and then we're going to actually gush over the figure itself. So hands wise, you get a gripping hand and you get a sort of shield holding hand. Now he's got the shield holding hand gripped into here to hold onto the shield, and he's also got a gripped fist on his right arm to hold onto the club. One of the nice features of the club is that it pulls out, and it's got this little bit on the end that fits on, and it slots on. So when you actually need to take it out, pop that off, slide it into the fist hand, put that on the bottom, and it'll grip it fine, and you don't have to stand there bending and flexing the fingers, which could cause damage in the long run if you have to keep swapping this in and out all the time. It's just a nice little design feature. And of course you've got the sheath for the knives, and these knives are here. Of course it's a really nice design. Both have got different hilts, different handles, and they've all both got different designs on the actual blades. The lines are thicker on one than the other, etc. And they've got a nice metallic blue with some flecking in there to really give it some oomph. And then those go in here like that, and like that, and then they just magnetise onto the back of the figure. Now, one of the problems I've got at the moment is because of the rubberized body on top, it's a little top heavy. So you have to be careful with that, because the way he's designed is he's got all this rubber up in his arms and all this armor up the top here, and he just pulls the it just puts a bit more pressure on these knees. I'd like these to be a bit stronger. Maybe it's the ankles, or maybe it's the knees themselves, but something just pulls him forward quite easily. So as much as I'd like to display him without a stand, I do think you're gonna need to use the stand. Or the longer swords, which look like that, and as you come through you can see again separate designs, really nice colours going through from the reds to the oranges to the yellows, back down to the reds, and the same here. Really great design. And of course you've got that lovely metallic teal going through with some dark flecking all the way around. They're really nice. I still have no idea how the fuck those swords work though, because the problem is in the movie he pulls out the swords and they just extend, and I still have no idea how they do that. Sometimes I wish they'd explain that. Sometimes it's good to leave things to the imagination, and you know, it is a film that suggests that maybe you should just go with this, you know, just relax and enjoy yourself, even though there's some silliness in there. And then we've got the hands. I'm just going to show you one hand, which is really nice. It's got some really nice speckling up into the skin, even with the palms all sculpted nicely. Fingernails are sculpted well, and then you've got these hand guards. Again, no paint bleed, which is really great. They really do take their time with these figures, and I think it really shows. And that's one of the things that once you start getting things like 1/6 scale Hot Toys, it can spoil other, you know, toy companies for you. You can get other toys, other figures from companies, and they can really sort of, they're just not up to scratch, and it can really spoil them for you. Because once you start getting Hot Toys, I think once you go Hot Toys, there isn't much going back, to be honest. And here's another one. As you can see, there is some paint, red paint design on the actual handguard, which is a great touch. But anyway, you get 2 open palm hands, 2 gripping hands, 2 fist hands, and you also get 2 of these semi-closed hands. And you also get 2 extra cape fasteners, I think you'd call them, or cape holders, but they're not as weather worn up here as the original. So if you are going to swap them out, just remember that these are a bit more faded and a bit more worn than these ones. And then he's got the 2 swords that he uses at the end of the movie, which are extras in the deluxe version. And again, if we pull in, we can see all that lovely design in there. We've got that lovely hilt handle piece at the bottom. It's still got all the design in there, and it comes up all the way up. And again, no paint bleeding down these swords. I have no idea how they do it, but it's such a touch. And these are really nice. And of course you've got this gun that he uses on the Junker Planet. That him and Loki use one each when they're clearing out a room. And again, it's a really great design. You come up, there's little details like in the handle here. They look like they've been coupled together by Junkers and just made into a weapon, even though they're not really supposed to be. These look like coils from the inside of something else that are used as handles. You've got a trigger. There's no moving pieces in this, I'm afraid. But again, it's a great alien looking gun design, and it's such a lovely touch. You can have that displayed with him or just kept in the box until you get a Loki, and you can have them both, hopefully holding that gun for this scene where they're cleaning out the room. Extra wrist pegs obviously, and you get these extra beads for on the belt and some of the armour pieces. You can have these, so if any of them fall off, you've got a couple spare to reattach to make him whole again. And then of course you've got the shield, and that's got a great design on it. It looks exactly like it did in the movie. And it's got some rusting effects and some scratches. It's got some really great design in there. Really nice touch. If you have a look at the back of the shield, you can see he's got the gauntlet piece here that he slides his forearm into, and he can grip this handle here. And of course here's the stand, and it's got Thor Ragnarok there. It's got sort of like a funky neo spot UV design on there, some matte, some gloss, sort of paint splatter style there with the alien text here. And it's got this plaque here saying Gladiator Thor. Some people really like these figures. I mean, they can uniformly slot next to each other pretty firmly, and you can get a few all the way around. I'm not a big fan of them. I usually like mine on the clear perspex stands just to get them all uniformed. But it's a nice touch, and it's good print. I would prefer if it sort of looked a little bit more like they got a pattern from the actual Gladiator arena that he was standing on. I'm not sure if this is actually from that. I don't know. I can't remember it, to be honest. But it does look like a bit of a generic 80s style funky paint splatter design with Thor Ragnarok with Marvel written on it. I think it's a solid release. Pretty safe, but yeah, not for me. And then of course we've got this helmet. Such a nice helmet. It's such a great design.
Your helmet is so big.
It still has that sort of Thor sensibility to it, but it's definitely got an 80s vibe, 80s sci-fi future tech vibe to it. And then of course it's got that lovely teal going through it. And when that's under a nice strong light, not something dull, it will reflect on that teal really nicely and make the figure pop a little bit. And then the ears go forward and back, so you can have him designed casually like that or ready for battle like that, which is a really great touch. And to take the helmet off or put it on, you then take the back piece off like this. You then bring this forward to take it off, but there's a magnet there, so be careful. And then we get Friar Tuck Thor. And then his hairpiece comes up. I found it a little fiddly to put this back on straight away. But if you come up, you've got to do a bit of moving around, as you can see. The magnet pulls it in, and you've got to try and figure out the space for which it goes. I had it on backwards. Shit.
Where was it you graduated from again? Hmm? The University of Duh.
But yeah, if you put that on like that, and this is where the nice design is. If I hold it up like here, you can see some of the hairline, but when it's just standing still and calm, the hairline is hidden. And then you've got some scratches in the side of the head here for the rough cut of the hair he'd had from the Stan Lee barber. And while we're here, let's just have a look at that head sculpt. That is a superb head sculpt. That is Thor from Thor Ragnarok. There's no mistaking it. There's great clear gloss in the eyes. We've got some lovely paint flecking and skin texture going through. He's got a really good frown. There's no separate head sculpt for a smiling Thor, but that's okay. Then you've got this lovely face paint that he had in the movie during the battle, just going down the neck and into the face. And it's a great touch. And of course you would get those really amazingly well sculpted ears. Hot Toys are really good at. What a fantastic piece. I think this is possibly one of those figures that will get a definite recast, where they'll take the face paints off so that you can have a short head Thor for maybe an Infinity War style. One downside to this design is that when you look at this from the side, you can actually move this arm down and you can actually see inside the armour here, and you can see the workings of the butterfly joint underneath, and there is a big separation between here and here. Lift it up, try and block it off as best you can. Again, it's not a big thing, but it is something you got to keep an eye out for. Okay, let's have a quick look at the armour. We can see that it's very detailed in parts. You can come up and you can see that the cape is very pleated. It stretches all the way around the back. I'll show you the back of that in a minute. Then you've got these buttons, or armour holding bits. I don't know what you call them, but those things. These things here. See, these things here, you can just they're very nicely lightly weathered in the middle, but then spread out so that they can actually be a bit more bronzy on the outside, or goldeny. And then you've got this sort of colour metal piece here that's sort of golden, but again it's slightly faded, slightly worn, with a little bit of a black wash in there. And as you come down, you've got all the details and stitching in the armour here. It's still one solid piece of plastic, which can hinder the ab crunch, but it's not too bad. And you've got this lovely sort of paint work effect down the left hand side of his armour, and it reaches all the way down into the pleats here and down into the leg. And they're not too strong. Sometimes they could be so obvious and out of place that it makes it look really bad, but they've managed to blend it in perfectly so that the whole thing just looks movie accurate as best it can be. And of course you've got this shoulder piece here, the teal shoulder armour. It sort of slides up and down and you can move it around, which can hinder the articulation a little bit once you're getting up here, but it's not too bad. And again, it's got some of that red paint effect on the actual armour itself. Then you come down, you've got this full arm gauntlet that's in separate pieces. There's this piece here, and this piece here. and all three, when you move it around, it doesn't hinder articulation much and can be manipulated so that he can get as much of a bend as possible in the arm. And then you've got this strapping that comes all the way around the side here, and that has lots of little details in there. Some of the paint's bled off onto it, and then you've got all these studs going all the way around. And then of course you've got that belt, and the belt has that buckle on the side there. Really well detailed, no paint bleed again, which is just exemplary, especially on like these figures. Any figure really, paint bleed is almost inevitable, but for some strange reason Hot Toys manage to always ensure that unless you've got a defective one, the paint bleed is so minimal that it's almost not even there. Then of course you've got a small teal effect here, and it looks like he's got an undershirt here which feels a bit pleathery or leathery, which is great. And then you come down to the side and you can see that there is actually some sculpting in the side of this armour here to make it look like fabric. It's not, but it looks great. And then when you turn it around, you can see that cape flows all the way around the back here, full of pleats, a little bit of weathering on the edges because there's sort of blackness in there, makes it look dirty and faded, and then he sort of hooked it onto here. And that's one of the reasons I got this figure, was because it wasn't your usual Thor. And that cape just reminds you of how much they've come to change him from the original. And then of course you can see all the print coming down the side of the leg here. There's also some knee pads on the trousers. There's this sort of, I don't know what it is, fabric crotch cloth thing. I don't know. Oh, it bends outwards rather than inward, which means to me, which suggests to me it's not meant to be like this. It sort of bends here. And trying to get it flat to his body is a bit difficult. Not sure if that was deliberate or not, but it's one of those little things I look at and I just go, oh, just try and, but I can't change it. I don't know if I need to futz with it underneath the armour or take all the armour off and remove it around. I don't know, but I'm not going to bother right now. And then of course you've got this foot gauntlet, foot protector thing. It's supposed to be a full boot, but obviously they've halved it and they've separated the shoes from the top half so that you get as much articulation as possible. And then you get the teal leg guard with the red writing, alien writing on it as well, which is fantastic. One of the problems I've got is this ankle feels a little loose to me. I don't know if anyone else has had that, but it's a little bit on the wonky side and it can pop off, especially like with a lot of Hot Toys when they have leg armour and arm armour, the hands and feet can pop off. Those pieces of armour can actually force the feet not to go on properly. And I think that is a slight flaw in this figure. It's the same here, sort of. I've had that foot pop off twice now. All in all, this is a solid release from Hot Toys. Now there isn't much here that I haven't been able to do before. For example, they've had figures before where the hair pieces can come off. They usually have purrs, like the rolling eyes underneath. Then you put the hair piece back and it's almost seamless. They've done that before. They've done Thor before, they've done armour pieces before, they've done clothing like this before. Even the weaponry, a lot of the time, apart from maybe some of the blending on the blade handles and things like that with the paint, they've done before. Helmets, they have done before. There's nothing on this figure that is game changing. It's not like they designed this figure and it's going to turn, everyone's going to turn around and go, oh no, this is the way Hot Toys are going to go from now on. This is the improvements they've made. But it is a solid release. The amount of accessories you get mixed with the really high quality head sculpt and the great paint applications mean this is a very, very strong release from Hot Toys. I genuinely think that if you are even mildly into the Thor Ragnarok film, you should get this figure. I don't know if it's still available, but I'm pretty sure I've seen a few places where it's still for sale. And if you can get one, I would recommend you snap one up now, because I have the feeling that it may not be available for much longer. But again, this is a solid 8 out of 10, simply because everything is strong on this figure. Nothing is legendary, nothing is game breaking, but it is definitely a worthwhile purchase. I'm so glad I got this guy. All I'm waiting now is for Gladiator Hulk to arrive, and this guy is going to go stand in front of him in my display case, and it's going to look epic. Anyway, that's it guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and if you could do me a favour now, I've got to go and do a another video for the Spider-Man Homecoming figure, because that's just arrived as well. It seems like Hot Toys just decided, you know what, I'm just going to release everything in June. There you go, everything in June. There you go. Voila, have all the figures in the world. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that review next. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and if you could do me a favour now, if you just get the fuck out of my cave, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.